Iruma was an ugly, disgusting, worthless loser, who was bullied by his own useless parents, that forced him to risk his life ever since he was a child. They never allowed him to attend school or have any friends, but instead made him clean up after their disgusting lives, and because they were too lazy to hold a job, they forced Iruma to become a criminal to earn their living. Eventually, he managed to secure a job smuggling illegal fish across the ocean. But while they were in the middle of a dangerous storm, the giant fish began falling on his weak and worthless body, but before one of them could crush him, time froze in that instead, and Iruma was teleported to a different dimension in front of the Demon King. His parents had sold him off to the blood-devouring demon Sullivan, and while they traveled inside the demon world, Iruma realized that his life was about to end. However, the demon had placed him on a throne, and got his knees asking him to be his grandson. His entire life he'd been alone, so he promised to spoil Iruma and give him everything in this world, after living a life filled with misery and torture. This was the first time someone would care about him, so Iruma decided to accept, and Sullivan instantly transformed the throne into a luxurious room for his new grandchild. Along with his new clothes, Sullivan told him that he'd be enrolling at the demon school, but because demons could smell human blood to eat them, Sullivan soaked Iruma with a purple liquid, and told him that he was glad he accepted, because if he didn't he would have eaten him for dinner. The following day at school, all the demons flew above Iruma to enter the New Year ceremony, and Sullivan welcomed everyone as the principal of the school. And Iruma realizes that he's about to have the hardest school life. He begins showing embarrassing photo of Iruma to all students, and instead of having Alice give the welcoming speech, Sullivan forces Iruma to take his place, as he struggled to speak. All the students wonders why a weakling like him is representing their school, but a paper materialized from thin air, and Sullivan telepathically told Iruma to read the words on the bottom. So before everyone, he began reciting the words, but as he kept going every single one of the students and teachers were shocked with fear with each word. The mana in the room began to destroy the walls, and when he let the final word out, a green energy emanated around him. All the students screamed in shock, and one of the teacher told him that he shouldn't have been reciting the forbidden spell, as messing up a single word would have exploded his body. However, Iruma had no idea what was going on, and the teacher congratulated him on being the only idiot to risk his life for a worthless spell, because its only effect was protecting him from falling the entire day. As he began walking off the stage, Asmodeus glared towards him, and teleported him to the arena, saying that he will crush him to prove that he's the one worthy of representing the freshman class. With everyone watching them, Alice launched towards Iruma with a fireball, and continued launching a barrage of attacks that exploded the building, even though his powers exceeded every other student's. But not a single shot was landing on Iruma, and Alice began wondering why everything was missing him. By the time he was out of energy, Alice wondered why he wasn't ever able to land a hit, but Iruma was only one who knew how to dodge everything thrown at him, after his parents had forced him to risk being killed his entire life. This was finally his chance to apologize, but all the students thought he was the strongest demon to ever walk their school, and thought Alice was a coward. So after hearing all this screams, Alice decided to take him down using his martial arts. But after launching towards Iruma, he avoided his attacks and used his strength against him, sending him launching towards a girl. In last moment before they would fall, Iruma grabbed onto him, and his anti-falling spell had activated. The only thing that remained after the dust settles was Iruma's body suplexing Alice. The following day, Iruma knew his life would be over if Alice faces him again, but in that moment, Alice entered the room and walked towards Iruma, getting on his knees and pledging his life to learning from Iruma. By the following day, Iruma arrived at the school. Alice appeared before him, and offered to show him around. As they walked through the school, Alice told him that they were drawn into the same group, and would be learning to summon magical beasts once they arrived. When they arrived inside the hall, Alice told him that their success in the summoning ritual would determine the class they fall into, but said that their instructor was an ugly horrendous, who loved to fail all his students. As he let out those words, the door burst open, and the man-looking instructor appeared before their eyes. He introduced himself as Caligo, and said that he would be directing them for the test. He told them his duty was to determine how useless they were, and to kick them out of the school like worthless garbage. As he started straight into Iruma's eyes, he threatened to destroy him for being too ugly, and said that he would kick him out of the school once he found his chance. To explain process of summoning a beast, the instructor decided to reveal a magic mirror. He said that their first duty was to draw a bloody circle on their parchment, and to hold it over a magic candle until a summoned beast appeared out of the smoke. When a girl asked if they could be attacked by their summoned beasts, the instructor vanquished the mirror as part of his weird demonstration, and said that their beasts would be destroyed if they failed to serve them. Before long, the first student put her parchment inside the flame, and managed to summon a cute monster. Within a moment, most of the students had summoned their own monster. When it was Alice's turn, he began to burn his parchment, and as the smoke rose before him, a dragon appeared, leaving everyone in shock. By the time it was Iruma's turn, he began to wonder how he would summon a beast, since he has no magical powers like the demons. However, when he began to burn his parchment, he realized that this was his perfect opportunity of getting kicked out of the school, and thought that he would be allowed to return to the human world. As his parchment began to burn, a blinding light appeared before him. Before his eyes a dark flame began to burn, and the instructor appeared before him as his summoned beast. At this realization, Iruma and instructor began to freak out. The instructor told him to stop the spell, so Iruma tried pulling him out. However, when he failed to do so, he decided to push him out the other way. At that moment, everyone realized that the instructor had transformed into an ugly, disgusting pet. The demon thought that Iruma was a mystical being for summoning another demon, and Alice offered to do his laundry every Sunday. The instructor grew angry, and told Iruma to break the seal between them, but lightning struck him for rebelling against his master. Later that day, Caligo tried asking Sullivan to break their spiritual contract, but he told that the contract could only be cancelled after a year had passed. By the following day, Iruma had grown famous around the school, and all the boys thought he was their new Andrew Tate. While heading to the class with Alice, a ball rolled into the boxes before them, and a girl emerged before their eyes. She flew towards him like a useless creep. She began telling him that her name was Clara, and said a whole bunch of nonsense that should not exist in any dialogue. However, when she began to arrange the boxes, Iruma thought she was the prettiest girl he has ever seen. Alice told him that she was the school weirdo who was avoided by everyone, because she was too disgusting and ugly. A senior appeared before them, and taking them as companions, he bound them in an instant and cast them away. Inside the courtyard, Clara asked them to play with her, because she was too useless to have any friends, but Alice suggested that they run away immediately. However, when Clara started pleading, her words pierced straight into Iruma's heart, so he agreed to play with her, hoping to add more losers to her squad. Clara told Alice to join the party, but he told her that he would rather give out his kidney, until Iruma managed to persuade him into joining their company. After hours of running around the yard like filthy children, Iruma and Alice became exhausted, so Clara tapped her little pocket, and summoned a drink and snack for Iruma, telling him that she has the ability to summon whatever she has seen. Just then 3 seniors called upon her, and demanded for their usual drinks. After they left, Iruma asked if they were her friends, so she told him that they often played with her. But in truth, she was only their human vending machine. She told Iruma that he was the only person who has actually played with her, and hoped to play with him again. By the following morning, a freaky bird alarm woke Iruma up, and he hurried to school, because he was already excited about meeting his new friends. That day at school, they started playing again. When they were done, Clara summoned juice for them, but Iruma thought it was becoming too much. Inside the school, as Clara was goofing off, she overheard the 3 seniors calling her an ugly goofball who would soon be dumped like a bitter ex-wife. They only missed having her around because of her ability as a vending machine, and their worlds made her sad. When she met Iruma in the courtyard, she decided to give him a lot of gifts, hoping he would continue to be her friend forever. However, when he tried telling her that he did not need her gifts, she began to cry, saying that no one wants to play with her unless she buys them off with her gifts. Iruma told her that he would remain her friend, and said that he has no desire to continue taking her gifts. Touched by his kind words, she began to roll around in excitement like a useless nuisance. As the 3 seniors arrived, they demanded for new drinks, so Clara summoned an entire vending machine, and planted one of them into the ground for their time. The following morning, Iruma discovered that Alice and Clara were waiting outside his home, and Sullivan was glad that he was starting to make some new friends. However, Iruma was uncertain about calling them his friends, and wondered if a human could befriend demon without getting eaten. At school, as Iruma and friends tried to have lunch, a mountain of food was served before him, having been ordered by a rival group of students. Before they knew it, Iruma finished off the food like a glutton, and everyone wondered if the food through his body. Iruma continued devouring more food as it was served until all food was finished inside the cafeteria. As Caligo walked inside, he came across Iruma, angered by the sight of him. He threatened to annihilate him once their summoning contract was broken. But when he began to leave, Clara held him back, saying that she wishes to see his true form as a summoned beast, and told Iruma to grab a magic sticker and clap his hands. As he did, the instructor transformed into the ugly pet, and the students were left in shock. That afternoon in the courtyard, Clara told Iruma that they would be moving into a new class the following day, and hoped that they would all remain together. Hearing her words, Iruma decided to ask if he could call them his friends. but they had never heard that word before, and Alice wondered what it meant. He told that their friends were the people they chose to hang out with, so they agreed to become his friends. The next day while having breakfast, Sullivan told Iruma that he had selected him for the misfit class, since he asked to be unnoticeable in the school, and Iruma thought it was the best decision in the world. While walking off to school, Alice wondered why he had refused to fly with his wings, and thought that he merely to strengthen his legs by walking. However, Iruma was too afraid to give him an answer. At the school, they discovered that they were all chosen for the misfit class, but Iruma was worried that he would not survive for long in the demon world. As they headed down a cave, Iruma realized the class may become his worst nightmare. Before long, they arrived before a large creepy door. As Iruma opened it, weapons launched at him from a trap, but he rolled and dodged all of them. Impressing the students with his skill, Alice demanded to know why they set the traps. So a student told him that they intended to test the abilities of their newly joined companion. At that moment, Iruma realized that the misfit class was a class full of nutcases. Before he knew it, a giant dude appeared before his eyes, saying that he had allowed himself to be impaled by all the weapons. He introduced himself as Sabnik, and said that he intends to become the new Demon King, and to rank highest on the scoreboard. As Caligo entered the class, he blocked off the weapons with his shield. He told them that he was assigned as their new teacher, and commanded them to head outside for a test to determine their ranks. When they arrived in a valley, he told them that their task was to retrieve the flag on a faraway hill. When Sabnik told him that he would follow the Cutthroat Valley, because it was a shorter route, Caligo told him that the guardian of the valley was being overprotective, and would annihilate him immediately. When they were ready to take off, the demons drew their wings and flew away, blowing Iruma towards the edge of the cliff, and the instructor pushed him off to his doom. As Alice flew through the valley, weird flowers launched needles at him, but he managed to avoid them, and summoned his dragon to burn them all. When it was done, Clara appeared behind him, saying that she wishes to hop a free ride on his back. Before they knew it, they got tangled up, and fell towards the ground. At the same time, Sabnik tried forcing his way through the Cutthroat Valley, determined to win through the shortcut, and was convinced that he needed to prove himself, so that he would become the new Demon King. Luckily, he managed to climb up a mountain. Meanwhile, Iruma was being carried off by a demon crow. After he fell off the cliff, he was caught by the crow, taking him home for dinner. However, after hearing a loud cry, it abandoned him and immediately took off. Meanwhile, Clara was being swallowed up by a giant flower, but Alice cut it open, and freed her. With Iruma nowhere in sight, he began to wonder how they would find him, and thought that he may have made it across the valley already. Iruma had fallen into a bird's nest. As he thought his end was near, he discovered that the bird was wounded. Hoping to treat its wounds, he decided to slit himself, and rolled a bandage over his hand as a demonstration to the beast. However, when he tries to open his bandage, a drop fell into the bird's wound, healing it in an instant. Excited by its recovery, he threw Iruma on its back, and flew off with him. At the same time, Sabnik was finally getting his butt kicked by the guardian of the valley, and realized that he was about to meet his end before becoming the Demon King. Determined to fight back, he bit his dog tag and summoned a weapon out of his lightning. Eager to survive, he charged at the giant bird, remembering his childhood desire of becoming the king. Before striking the monster, with the beast unscathed, he bit another dog tag and summoned a new weapon before flying at the monster, but it remained unharmed from all his attacks. Even still, it knocked his blade into the air, and cast him towards the edge of the cliff. However, Sabnik remained determined to prove himself, and screamed at the beast for being an ugly, disgusting monster. As it was ready to end him, Iruma appeared before his eyes, and managed to save him from his doom. Before long, they realized that the bird were family. Iruma began to telling the monster that he treated her baby, and said that they would be leaving soon. Sabnik thought that this was his perfect opportunity to slay the guardian, and immediately raised his blade, but Iruma told him to surrender before they were served as dinner, so they raised their arms in surrender. In the other hand, Alice and Clara finally arrived at the Hyuga, and they realized that Iruma was nowhere in sight. With all the students having made it to the Hyuga, Caligo decided to cancel Iruma and Sabnik from the test, but powerful wind blew at them, and the guardian began flying towards them. Afraid that it intends to attack them, Caligo prepared to end the bird, but Iruma started waving at them from on top of it. However, after they arrived, Caligo decided to punish them for returning late. He told the students that they would be ranked by a rank owl, and said that their ranks would determine their success in school. When Sabnik remembered that Iruma rescued him from getting isekai, he thanked him for his support, and told him that he would consider him his rival for the demon throne. Before long, all the students received their ranking badge. When it was Iruma's turn, he began to wondering his future in the demon world. Before he could choose a badge, the bird flew away, but everyone realized that he was wearing a mystical ring. Sabnik remembered that his brother told him the new demon king would descend from a foreign realm, and would make peace with all the monsters in the demon realm with the mystical golden ring, and thought that Iruma would become the next demon king. Iruma tried to take off the ring, but realized that it was stuck to his finger, and all the students avoided him when he tried asking for their help. He discovered that there was a demon behind him. He tried getting it off, but demon screaming a noise that brought terrible pain in everyone, looking to eliminate it. Sabnik suggested that they pull it out of the ring, but with a touch, he passed out immediately. When Alice tried suggesting a new plan, it bit his nose, causing him to pass out instantly. Caligo thought the monster was too dangerous, and tried slicing off Iruma's arm, but Sullivan stopped him just in time. When the monster tried screaming once more, Sullivan silenced it, making it return into the ring. He told Iruma that the ring was a gluttonous feeding ring that devours the powers of a demon when it was hungry, and said that the only way to keep it satisfied was by feeding it with more power. By the following day, Iruma discovered that he was ranked the lowest on the scoreboard, since he could not retrieve a badge from the rank owl, but was glad that everyone would ignore his ugly ass because of his poor performance. However, the next morning, Sullivan decided to drop him off in a carriage, and laid a red carpet in his honor, making him realizes that it was impossible to go unnoticed. Inside the class, Iruma wondering how he could return to the human world before his secret was discovered, but his friends appeared before him. As he watched Alice and Clara play together, he thought that he was lucky having them as his friends. Inside a new class, the teacher introduces herself as Susie, and said that she would be teaching them how to make flowers using magic. As a demonstration, she cast a spell on a plant, and it bloomed into a flower. When the students realized that a few seniors were watching them, Sabnik decided to utilize the attention and cast his own spell, but his plant turned into a monster flower, looking to challenge him. Alice decided to reveal his own burning flower, but Sabnik doused it with water. Angered by this act, Alice tried blasting him with a flame, but the teacher cast large vines to separate them. Before long, all the other students made their flowers blossom. Iruma wondered how he could grow his own plant since he had no magical powers, but wished for a beautiful flower. Looking to try his luck, he cast a little spell, and a blinding light burst forth before him. As a large tree began to rise, it burst out of the tower and appeared as a beautiful cherry blossom. At the sight of this, the student president, Ameri, realized that the tree was from the human world, and demanded to meet Iruma immediately. That evening, Iruma offered to clean the schoolyard, hoping to make up for his blunder, so the men led him to the dumpster, and told him to get rid of all the trash. However, before he could begin, Alice launched a flame to burn them up. He told him that he had come to offer his support, and was willing to stay by his side forever, but Iruma was tired of seeing his useless, horrendous face, so he commanded him to head home. Inside the school, Iruma tried returning his cleaning tools, but bumped into Ameri. As he tried to help her, she remembered her favorite comic book, and she realized that he was the human she was looking for, whom she hoped would translate the words in her comic book. However, she thought he was a menace, and wondered if he was better off arrested. Afraid his secret would be discovered, Iruma tried freeing himself, but she seized him tightly, convinced that he intended to play human trick on her. With Iruma nearly wetting himself, he tried apologizing once more, but she imitated him, believing that he intended to cast a spell on her. However, Alice and Clara spotted them, and Alice thought that Iruma was plotting to control the school council, and was choosing to keep them out of danger. Meanwhile, in the private office, Iruma began to read Ameri the comic book. When he was done, he decided to ask her about her dreams for the future. So she told him that her intentions were to create a better world for the demons, and to make the school the greatest place in their world. She told him that she dreams of working in a flower shop, but would love to become a housewife to an NBA star, so that she can play with his basketballs every night. She decided to ask him for his own ambitions, but Iruma was a total moron, and told her that his ambition was to play with his friends forever. She told him that his ambitions were as useless as his hideous face, and asked him for his true aspirations. Iruma told her that he doesn't have any aspirations, because he had dedicated his whole life towards serving other people. Amri told him to consider his ranking a new ambition, and to increase his rank to the highest position. As she said those words, the door exploded, and Clara appeared in the smoke, demanding to play with Iruma. Ameri was happy that their conversation was not overheard, but decided to tell Iruma that if he managed to increase his rank, she would be waiting to reward him with a night of plot development. The following day, inside the hall, Iruma decided to tell Alice that he intends to climb up the ranks, because he was inspired by Ameri's promise of plot development. Excited by his words, Alice suggested that Iruma rises to the highest rank and becomes the new demon king. But Iruma told him that he has no desire to become the king, but to merely increase his rank to a higher level. Alice thought that Iruma has a superior intention, and decided to heed his words. Before long, they arrived at a training ground. So Alice told him that his best chance at increasing his ranks was by having great scores at their next promotion exam. He said that the exams would test their abilities with a cannonball, and showed him a ball, saying that their duty was to avoid getting hit by it. By the time the game began, Iruma realized that this was a dodgeball. At that moment, Sabnik and the other students decided to join the game. As Sabnik launched the ball, a student slashed it in half, and 2 others parried it with their shield. At the sight of this, Iruma realized that he could not survive this dodgeball, since he has no powers to protect himself with. He was afraid of disappointing Ameri, and thought it was impossible to increase his rank. Realizing he was hopeless, Alice suggested that he requests for Sullivan's help. After arriving home, Iruma asked Sullivan to teach him how to play dodgeball, so when they arrived outside, Sullivan told him to throw the ball at the rock before him, but Iruma thought he was too weak to hit the target. However, when he tried throwing the ball, Sullivan told him to repeat a unique spell. As he said the spell, his ring began to sparkle and a dragon launched at the rock before him, destroying it and taking off towards the sky. Shocked by the sight of this, Iruma told Sullivan that he has no intentions of mobbing his opponents, and suggested that they try a gentler approach without magic. Sullivan told him that it would be difficult to defeat his opponents without using his magic, but decided to release a protective spell into his hands. He told him that he would assign Opera to become his new trainer, so he wouldn't flop during the exam. Before long, Opera arrived with a set of balls and started throwing them at Iruma like a mindless robot, but he managed to dodge everything. After growing exhausted, Opera told him that he could not win the game by merely dodging the balls, but said that he needed to catch them for his opponents to lose. However, when Iruma dodged another round of balls, Opera told him that he was hopeless and that was why his parents had abandoned him. The next day, as they began another round of training, Opera threw a ball that stopped before Iruma's eyes, and told him to start catching them before they hit his face. However, when he began to throw them, Iruma evaded them again, but nearly caught the third, managing to impress Clara and Alice, hoping to develop tougher muscles. Iruma began exercising like he was preparing for the marathon. When the day's training was over, he began to devour a bunch of meals like a glutton. A few days later, as they trained again, Iruma began to evade another set of balls. He intended to catch them, but was too afraid to even make an attempt. Luckily he managed to catch one, and was delighted like he had won the lottery. In the evening, he slept at a tree, having grown exhausted from all his training, so Clara and Alice slept beside him. The following morning, while having breakfast, Iruma told Opera that he was afraid that he may fail his exam, and lose his place inside the school. Hoping to cheer him up, Opera told him to be brave, and said that being afraid of his opponents was the easiest way to lose. At school, with the students ready for the exam, Caligo decided to explain the game to them, as he showed them a magical board. He told them he would be separating them into 2 teams, and said that the only way to win was by striking their opponents with the ball until no one was left standing. As he began sharing the armbands for their separate teams, Iruma and Alice realized that they had been drawn into opposing teams. Angered by this discovery, Alice demanded to know why they were separated, so Caligo told him that it was the only way to balance both teams. Afraid of seeing Iruma lose, Alice thought of supporting him from his own team. With the game ready to begin, the first team thought of eliminating Sabnik, taking him for an easy pick, but the ball was snatched away before they knew it, with Sabnik in control of the ball. The opposing team thought they were toast. Afraid for herself, a girl cast ice crystals before her, but the force of the ball broke through her shield and smacked her head, causing her to be ruled out. Clara started drawing several balls, and everyone began to wonder which was the real ball. Looking to have an advantage, one student decided to destroy the ground. Luckily Iruma spotted the ball, and managed to catch it, but the ground destroyer was kicked out of the game. However, when Iruma was ready to throw the ball, he realized that he could not aim it, as it was never part of his training, so Sabnik offered to teach him. With Alice still considering his decision to help Iruma, Sabnik thought he would be an easy target, so he threw the ball at him. However, he merely caught it, and struck him instantly. Looking to utilize his distraction, Clara tried to hit him, but he struck her instead. Within a moment, all the students were kicked out of the game, and Iruma and Alice realized that they were the last of their teams. After noticing Iruma's determination to win, Alice realized that he was unwilling to give up his spot on the scoreboard. As his determination grew, flames erupted around him, and he thought of vanquishing Iruma in an instant. At the same time, Ameri arrived inside the cave, and was hoping to see Iruma win the exam. With Alice ready to end him, Iruma remembered Opera's words and decided to be brave. So he began running towards him with a rage. Alice flung the flaming ball, and it pushed Iruma back the way he came, scorching his hands like a fireball. However, he managed to swirl the flame, and rising high he planted Alice with the fireball. Shocking everyone with his maneuver. With this victory, the team gathered around him, and began celebrating their success. For his performance, Caligo decided to increase his ranking, and everyone thought Iruma would certainly become the Demon King. As Ameri appeared before him, she congratulated him for his success, and said that he was becoming a better version of himself. Iruma told her that he had never desired anything for himself, but was happy that he achieved his first ambition. That evening at his home, Iruma announced his victory at the game, and Opera was delighted with his success. As he laid in bed that night, he began to wonder if he would really become the Demon King, and thought his secret would eventually be exposed to everyone. The following day in class, a new teacher arrived, introducing himself as Robin, and told them that he would be teaching them to command their summoned beasts. In the courtyard, the teacher told them that their beast was basically their partner, and that they needed to bond together so that they would become suitable partners. At his command, Alice decided to summon his own dragon, and the teacher was impressed by the sight of it. Taking it for a challenge, Sabnik decided to summon his own dragon, and the teacher thought their dragons were the most powerful beasts he had ever seen. However, when it was Iruma's turn, he grew afraid, since Caligo had warned him to never summon him. The teacher told him that the master should never be afraid of his beast, and commanded him to cast his summoning spell immediately. At that instant, Caligo appeared before their eyes. Realizing he had been summoned, he thought of annihilating Iruma, but the teacher caught him, and thought he looked fluffy like a pillow. As Caligo grew angry, he thought of annihilating the teacher, but was punished for failing to listen to his master. When he told Iruma to undo the spell, the teacher told them that they could only reverse the spell after the lesson was over, with both of them alone. Caligo told Iruma that he would stay with him until the lesson was over, and demanded that he gets the highest score. He told him that every summoned beast takes the form of its master, and said that he had taken this ugly shape because Iruma was the ugliest loser in the world. The teacher summoned them for a game to build each other's trust, but Caligo threatened to annihilate Iruma for coming too close. However, when the teacher threatened to reduce their score, Caligo decided to agree. As they played fetch, all the students gathered around to watch their teacher in action, as Caligo retrieved the item. Afterwards they began a series of games to build each other's trust. By the time it was over, Iruma apologized for summoning him unnoticed, but Caligo decided to ask why Iruma had not called upon him in the valley, when the guardian bird tried to end them. So Iruma told him that was unwilling to see him wounded by the guardian. As he let out those words, they realized that Alice and Sabnik intended to duel, so that they would discover the stronger beast. However, before their beasts could begin devouring one another, Caligo cast them to the ground, shocking everyone with his ability. With the conflict settled, Caligo decided to ask the teacher why the game for bonding with their summoned beast was important. The teacher tried saying that it was the only way to strengthen their connection, but Caligo told him that their bonding was to save both of their lives from a threat. He said that summoned beasts were magical animals that could turn on anyone at any moment, and said that they ought to be respected as they could create chaos in the demon world. Having said this, the students began treating their beasts like royalty. Inside the cafeteria, Alice told Iruma that a group of seniors would be arriving to persuade freshers into joining their groups, and said that they often helped the students in increasing their rank. Hearing his words, Iruma realized that he could increase his rank in a short while, and thought of finding himself a group. Before he knew it, several demons rushed into the school, hoping to find some freshers they can persuade into joining their group. One demon tried approaching Iruma, but Alice cast a flame to chase him away. When a few other demons tried hurrying to them, Alice cast a flaming barrier around them. As they walked down the hallway, they discovered the seniors trying to force the freshers into their groups. After discovering that the student president was approaching them, Iruma became afraid, having failed to realize that she was Ameri. As she appeared before him, she decided to give him a flyer, saying that she was inviting him to join her group, and immediately left. Inside the class, Caligo told the students to join a particular group of seniors, saying that it was their best hope of increasing their rank. Excited by the thought of it, Alice suggested that they scout for a group. Inside the group tower, they came across a few of their friends. One of them asked Iruma what group he intends to join, since he was the most overpowered student around them. Iruma tried telling him that he had not found the right group, but his ring began to glow. Before he knew it, it started pulling him down the hallway like a nail to a magnet, and he bumped into a new demon. Afraid that the demon may have lost consciousness, Iruma thought of calling for help. However, he managed to wake up. After spotting Iruma's ring, he told him that the ring was drawn to his collar, as they possessed similar powers. He told him that he made his own collar for himself, so that he can use his own magic, and said that he intends to create more of it for the demons who have little magical powers like him. Iruma was enchanted by his words, and thought that he was the coolest demon he had ever met. That night at home, Sullivan decided to tune Iruma's ring, so that it would not go out of control anymore. When he was done, he told Iruma to repeat a spell. However, Iruma was afraid that a dragon would be summoned, and was unwilling to destroy the home, but Sullivan told him that the spell was a safe one. As he said the spell, a purple flame appeared before his eyes. Sullivan told him that he could increase the power of the flame by adjusting the ring to a higher mode, and brighter flame began to burn before unleashing into a monstrous fire. Sullivan decided to tell him another powerful spell, and warned him to only use it when he was in great danger, saying that it unleashes all the powers inside the ring at once. The following day at school, a senior decided to challenge Iruma to a shot with the ball, asking to have a taste of his power since he managed to defeat Alice at dodgeball. Having nothing else to do, Iruma accepted the challenge. As he adjusted his ring, he launched the ball with a spell, but the senior caught it comfortably. He told him that his throw was as weak as his ugly face and that was why he was dumped by his crush. As Iruma began walking through the school, he wondered what the students would think of him if they realized that his magic were from Sullivan, and was convinced that he would lose his relevance in the demon world. Suddenly, he was startled by an explosion, and slipped. When he tried to discover what was responsible for it, as the dust cleared, he realized that the earlier student had caused the explosion. That's all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, because part 2 is coming soon.